Hello, greetings everyone, and welcome to our exclusive webinar on optimizing MSP efficiencies. I'm Kathleen Martin, your host for today's event and the principal at Marketing by the Byte, as well as the Senior Vice President of Community at JS Group. Managed service providers stand at a critical junction where the right strategies and tools are paramount to not only sustaining but accelerating growth through efficiency and customer satisfaction. Today, I'm joined by an esteemed panel of industry veterans, including Jim Finnery from Perimeter 81, Jim Lippy from SaaS Alerts, and Adam Walter from Humanize IT. And together, we'll aim to unravel the techniques to streamline your operations by rooting out inefficiencies, emphasizing quality tools, and leveraging automation to elevate your business. Now, this is designed to be a talk with you, not a talk at you. So please use the Q&A function. As I see questions come in, I will find a break to ask our panelists along the way and share their responses. So gentlemen, welcome. Starting with you, Jim from Perimeter 81. Can you introduce yourself briefly?
Sure, Kathleen, thank you very much. Jim Finnerty, I'm our Director of Channel. I work with partners in North America predominantly, but I've been with Perimeter 81 for close to 4 years. So I've had a hand in a lot of our relationships with resellers, managed service providers, MSSPs, trusted advisors. I really run the gamut since I've been here for a while. I sit in New York and excited to be here talking with you all. Thank you.
Adam.
Hi, my name's Adam Walter. I founded this company back in 2017. Humanize IT is the brand that we use to deliver your QBRs easily and profitably. So we make it much simpler. We take your QBRs from 6 hours to about 15 minutes while keeping them with a personal touch.
And Jim from SaaS Alerts.
Hello, everyone. Jim Lippy, CEO of SaaS Alerts and former MSP.
Fantastic. All right, with our introductions out of the way, let me start our questions with you, Jim from SaaS Alerts. Thinking about tool selection criteria, we have various tools available for MSPs. There is no shortage of them. What specific criteria do you recommend to evaluate and select a tool or software? How do you know when it's right for your operations? What are your recommendations?
Yeah, so this is an ongoing, debate and a great question in terms of, how MSPs look at when they should be replacing tools. I'm going to put my old MSP hat on and go back to, 2010. And back then, we only changed, and I maintain this position now, even SaaS Alerts, even though we're a software company, we're only going to change tools for 3 reasons. 1, does it better protect our customers? 2, does it increase our revenue? 3, does it reduce labor costs? If it doesn't meet one of those 3 criteria, we're not even going to go through the process. Now, we stay aware of what's going on, right? And we will field, different products coming in and evaluating and stuff, but we won't make a change unless we're confident it's going to fill one of those 3 criteria points.
Thank you. Adam, Jim from Perimeter 81, either one of you?
Well, so I'll echo, what Jim is saying. The first and foremost priority for all the MSPs that I work with is keeping their clients happy, right? Whether you're trying to grow your business or grow your margins, it starts with having customers that are happy. So any tools that you're going to select, I like to say we're focusing on solving problems and what are the biggest challenges, the biggest problems that your clients are facing at that time. That should be your true north, right? And then the other 2 facets I would agree with as well that Jim said, but is it going to also allow you to grow your revenue or reduce your labor costs? These are, this is what helps guide more so, which of the narrow field of tools that you can use to solve the problem, what's going to work best for your business. But I think Jim hit it on the nail on the head.
I think we get a lot of caught up. Like I have this podcast and I have this story I tell all the time about Palm Pilots. Everybody got Palm Pilots back in the late 90s, early 2000s because they thought they would organize their lives. But what we know is unless you were already a person who used a planner, Palm Pilots became the place to play Bubble Breaker. That's what it was. It did not synergize with your existing operations. So when you pick a tool, find one that is something is simplifying an operation you have in place already. If you don't manage firewalls, don't buy a firewall tool. Is what I'm getting at here. And then to echo theirs is make sure it's supporting your customers and not just a shiny tool that says, oh, someday I'll be like this. No, you need to be like that today, and this should augment who you are today. And it should fit seamlessly into those operations. Otherwise, you're just buying another tool, and then you're going to learn it, and you have to integrate it, and you have to change your culture. Just make sure it fits already.
Exactly. And Kathleen, a lot of MSPs owners are technical by nature. So they like playing around with tools and evaluating new stuff. That can take a lot of time. So really only evaluate tools when you have specific problems, right, that you're trying to solve. That's a big key. And also, I would say, and I was on a call last night with my good friend Gary Pica. Most MSPs know who Gary Pica is. He told me a story about a vendor. This goes back probably 15 years or so. But that vendor came to him and said, look, I will give you my product free if you're willing to use it. And forever. And he declined because he said, it's not worth my time. It's going to save me maybe $4,000 a year, but my time is better spent elsewhere. So I think you always have to look at it through that lens.
I think it's funny because, like, as engineers, we will spend 8 hours solving a 5-minute problem. We got to worry about that when we go to our tools.
Alrighty, so Jim, moving over to you at Perimeter 81. How do you identify which vendors and platforms will have the best ROI or time to value? And as we look at this, most vendor MSPs are always stretching the truth, as it appears that way, or using marketing terms that say it's fast and or easy. But how do you know if it's true?
So it sounds from this question, we've gotten past that that initial, hey, we're trying to solve this problem. This is an important problem for our customers. It's going to make them happy. And so this should be more the guiding principle of, okay, what solution to write for our set of customers. And you mentioned too whether it's return on investment or time to value. I think they're both important metrics. They are slightly different. They're certainly related, but you have to consider what's important for your business, right? And it's going to come down to having some metrics in place that you're measuring already. And so some of these things may be related to customer pain points. I think making any kind of metrics very objective is useful. For instance, how many tickets are we getting from customers is something that's very, very easily measured if it is in fact a pain point that they're feeling. And then going back to Jim Lippy's point, how about time to resolve those pain points, those tickets, right? This helps come up with more of a total cost to certain challenges facing your customers. But I would work on making those as measurable, as objective as possible, so that you can have a good benchmark for comparing other solutions when you're out looking for new tools. And if you have those tool sets or if you have those metrics, you're going to have a far better time in evaluating your different options if you can draw those comparisons. And then, to Adam's point, I've found this to be true. Owners of MSPs or engineers in MSPs, a lot of tinkerers that love playing with new tech, that love testing things. So that shouldn't be the hard part, but the idea of testing everything that you're going to use is great to answer the question, will it work? Will it solve the problem? But then don't forget to test it against those all important metrics that you're using to guide your business decisions. And those are just a couple of examples, but number of tickets, time spent on resolving certain issues. There must be other ways of evaluating client pain, and I'd be open for ideas. If Jim, being a former MSP, or Adam, if you have other ideas of how you measure customer pain in objective, quantifiable ways. But tickets is one.
Yeah, I mean, certainly one of the things that we always did was we had net promoter score, so we would be able to determine what the satisfaction level was with at least what we were doing for them and how we were performing as an organization. And then we created, it was a root cause analysis group within our help desk. So we could see trends across our entire base. So these folks were super strategic, right? Like they weren't fielding, can you fix my Outlook issue? They were looking across the entire base and saying, okay, what are the most pervasive issues that we're seeing right now? And then from there would work on resolutions that would solve that across the board in a more efficient way. So we, net promoter score, and then with the customers, and then look at, that kind of root cause analysis piece to find out what were the biggest causes of pain across our entire base at once.
We have something called the 2 Qs. And I've been challenging, came from IT director, CIO level activities across corporations. And it's, what are the biggest risks to your organization and what are your biggest sources of revenue? And so when you open a meeting with a client and you talk to them about those 2 things, then you can start talking about what you're doing that's impacting those 2 things at any company. And as long as you're focused on it, you'll find the actual pain points, because we tend to train our clients to care about the wrong things. And it's just as much on them as it is us to keep the focus on the main thing, and that is profitability. And so if you're looking at the risks to that and your revenue sources for that, how are your tool sets? How are your services augmenting those 2 things? You will always grow with your clients.
Excellent. So Adam, keeping with you, let's move on to our next question. Balancing automation and personal touch. Now we know that automation is critical for efficiency. So how do you ensure that the human touch remains in client interactions and service deliveries? Are there any specific tasks or processes you intentionally rep in?
Yeah. And again, it's those 2 Qs from earlier. We try to keep things simple. That's why our brand is Humanize IT. You want to humanize what you're doing. Keep what is important in the focus. It's so easy to get lost in scripts and KPIs. It doesn't matter if you're technical or non-technical. KPIs can wash away what's actually important in a business if you're not being deliberate about them. So I hear all the time in demos with our product, like, hey, how do I automate my QBR so I don't have to go on site? And that's the wrong automation. What you can automate is gathering things, working with like a SaaS alerts to get this important information in front of you that matters, and getting this this report that helps the client see how is technology impacting revenue, how is technology reducing risk. And so when you have that personal touch there, one of the things we recommend to do to keep that in focus is, do you know what your client is trying to accomplish? Put at the top of your notepad when you walk in that business and say, this company is trying to open up a South location in 2024, and they're trying to scope this out. What is their major objective next year? If you don't know what that is, then you don't know how to align it. So once you know that personal thing that they're trying to accomplish that is important to their company, now you can look for ways to automate and streamline the roadblocks. You now know which things to prioritize. Last year at IT Nation Connect, I was asked, how do you get to 10,000 solutions in front of your company, your clients? And I say, you don't. You ask the company what they care about, and it's your job as an IT service provider to say, hey, here are the things that are going to help you. And then you need to have some tools on the back end to help you filter out all that noise and get to what that actually matters at the core. So automate things. Yes, automate operations. There's a lot of tickets your clients don't care about. There's a lot of things that your clients don't care about. They care about what's impacting their revenue, what's impacting their risk. And if you can filter out everything else with automation, you're going to succeed. So we tell people, you'll spend 6 hours getting ready for a QBR or getting ready for a client engagement. And you'll spend that entire time playing with PowerPoint, looking up different metrics and trying to get all these cool things in front of your client. You should be able to pull all of these metrics out of a operational tool. And then you should be able to sit down with your client and say, let's talk about you for the next hour. And then you can be prepared to answer questions that they have. But a QBR or a client engagement should be all about discovering what the client needs so that you can pick from the 10,000 things you have and put those in front of them. But if you spend all your time organizing those 10,000 things and trying to get them all in front of your client automatically, you're just going to end up with a big stack of paper. And I was a VCIO for years for clients. And they took that big stack of paper, they politely smiled, and they put it off to the side of their desk, and it got closer and closer to the trash bin until eventually it got dumped in. So invest in tools that knock out all the noise and keep the conversation on the main thing. Use that litmus test. Does this automation procedure allow me to talk more with my client about what's reducing their risk and what's generating revenue for them?
Yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of an MSP is a personal touch, right? Like, there's MSPs aggregate tools on the back end to make their jobs efficient so they can deliver a desired result to the customer. But it's really important in the context of that they're showing the value to the customer, what they're actually doing every single day. That can only be done through conversation and through education. And that's where the personal touch comes in. Let all of the automation happen in the back end with the tools that you've aggregated and create connections between them and hopefully create more efficiency. But the whole idea of an MSP is to have that personal touch and maintain it for the long term.
All right, well, we have a question. We have been asked, how do you let the client know about all the automation behind the scenes that add value?
Paul.
Well, so I think one of the things, that had been talked about quite a bit is the VCIO visits, right? And end of the day, I remember my MSP days. After the first couple of VCIO visits, it was difficult to get people to do more of them, right? Because they were so glazed over with data points that didn't matter to them, like how many viruses were quarantined last month. That doesn't mean anything to them. Again, they're looking for a desired result. That's why they hired you. That's why they trust you with their IT. So I don't know how much they really care about the automation and what you're doing, because that really just creates efficiency for you and makes your organization more profitable, right? They want the desired result, and ultimately you need to educate them on all the great things you're doing to deliver that, whether it's automated or not. They don't necessarily care whether or not your margins are 35% or 55%. The automation in the background will help you do that, go from 35% to 55%, but they don't necessarily care.
Yeah, I would put this in the category of, I don't like to see how the sausage gets made. I'll enjoy it if it's cooked right and tastes good, but and I think this is what Jim is saying. This question may come to, or I think it speaks to, business retention, right? We want to know that our clients know all the hard work that we're putting in to get them that desired business result, and how much it would be painful if they were to leave, or how we can impress them so that we get referrals from them. But I think they don't need to know that all the steps that went into making that sausage. Just that the business result, the taste is better than what they've had before.
In the corporate world, we had this issue, right? We would swap out PCs because we're all about efficiencies. And so we'd swap out PCs, but we wouldn't change the keyboard and the mouse and the monitor. And people were like, when am I getting a new computer? Well, we just swapped it out last week. And so this moves you into something where it's a hot topic, perceived value. And so if you change out a keyboard and a mouse, but don't change out the desktop, people will swear their computer is faster. And it's this perceived value. Which one took more work to do? Well, obviously building a new computer did. And so you can have all these automations in the background, and that's just kind of like doing your job. It's changing the oil. Now, do those automations change the perceived value to the customer? Are you making their day better? It's just like we talk about relationships all the time in our podcast about how you should treat your client as if you're on a date with them, or in your marriage. Like if you're cleaning the house, I waxed the floor today, I cleaned the cupboards, I sterilized the pool, I did all these things. The house looks the same when my wife and kids come home, and they just get that expectation. Now, how am I improving them? If I take them out to ice cream, suddenly I'm the hero. If I do something above and beyond and I show them what's going on, I'm the hero. If I stop doing my daily activities, they'll be like, why is it messing here? Well, my kids won't care, but my wife will. And so we can't just say, hey, I cleaned everything today. It's just that every once in a while you need to do something of high perceived value so that the client feels heard. And you got to figure out what that is for each client, because each client's different.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for answering that. And thank you, Paul, for asking. Okay, next question. This one's coming over to you, Jim, Perimeter 81. When talking about measuring efficiency gains, what key performance indicators, and we've kind of touched on these a lot today, or metrics are you using to monitor or gauge the efficiency gains from new tools? How do you know if those new tools are really working for you? And then how often should you review them or adjust the strategies based on your results?
So I'll go back to, I think, Jim, you added something earlier about NPS surveys and using that as kind of a moving gauge of your performance. I think that's a great KPI that every business, especially the MSP business, which is such a human oriented business, that is an exceptional one, I think, for measuring your ongoing delivery of the business result that people are looking for. So again, not so much what goes into it, but are your customers happy with the results that you've been able to deliver for them? I'll also add that I think it can be, I've worked at organizations that have 20, 50, 100 different KPIs that are all competing for importance, but it really becomes difficult to make any of those KPIs actionable when you have KPI sprawl. So it is really important. I think it was Adam who said earlier that you don't lose sight of the ultimate goals by adding additional KPIs. I think there are some that are going to help you measure efficiency, if efficiency is the most important element that you should be measuring. Time to value, we talked about earlier, is an important one. Overall return on investment, over what period of time is what you have to determine is the right measurement for a return on investment. There are more specific KPIs like, and I'll go back to tickets, right? Because this is one way that MSPs are engaging with every level of their client organization. It's not just QBRs, but with the end users, how time to resolution, time to response. I mean, these are, I think, for a service organization, these are all really important KPIs. But I think it's every business needs to determine what are the most important for delivering the business result that you're that you're selling to these customers. Those are just a few examples.
Yeah, Kathleen, I would agree with all of those. I would also add net retention for MSPs, I think is important, really important. So I do a presentation called MSP Time Machine. And the whole concept is I wish I could go back in time to my MSP and take everything I've learned in the software business and take it back to the MSP so I can better manage my MSP. Because I believe that MSPs could gain a lot if they actually manage their businesses more like software companies than MSPs. And net retention is one of those metrics. It's the number one metric for software companies, right? And for those that aren't familiar, net retention is, new logo sales plus expansion from existing customers minus churn equals net retention. So I believe that if you're actually tracking net retention as an MSP, it changes the behavior in your organization. It makes you more focused on selling or upselling your customers as opposed to looking at everything in silos. I'm going to raise my hand and say that I'm guilty of doing this. Like, I didn't even know about net retention when I ran my MSP. We looked at it as you've got new sales, then you've got projects to existing customers, and then you've got hardware sales. And everything was kind of siloed, and obviously churn. But if you're tracking net retention, it's going to force behavior around in your organization that puts more of an emphasis on selling new products to existing customers. And I've been on record many, many times of saying that I think the entire industry would do a lot better if that became a core metric that everyone looked at.
Yeah, growth mindset is key. And, you see me in the forums around the block all the time. I'll talk to people and they'll say, I don't want to learn sales. I just want to do my job. I'm like, well, then get out of business, because you have to focus on these metrics. You have to focus on sales. You have to focus on growing in a way that matters and automating the things that's just noise. Because if you aren't thinking about profitability and sales and net retention, if that is not, as an owner, you wake up and that's the first thought in your head, then you're probably in the wrong role. Find somebody who does care about those things and get them in control, because that is the key. You may have been, I was a great engineer back in the day. I was a Nexus core admin. I was a CISSP. None of that mattered when I started running a business, because now I need to learn a whole different set of skills. And as I have learned, there's a big world out there that you've got to focus on learning. And it's just as complicated, if not more so, than the entire engineering arena. And the things that I wish I knew I could bring back and teach me, there's something to be said for the School of Hard Knocks and incidental learning. But there are things, if I could have known these 5 years ago, I'd be in a better place today.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all. Let's move over to you, Jim, at SaaS Alerts. Let's talk about the futures of MSPs. Mm-hmm. Looking into your crystal ball, what do you foresee as the next big shift or trend in MSP operations? And then how can companies, MSP specifically, prepare for this future that is on the horizon?
Well, there's multiple different directions we can go here. In terms, I think in many ways, the future is already here, in that the two main focuses need to be security and automation. And obviously, we've already talked about both. Security is something that isn't going away. Cybersecurity is an absolute need. It's only getting more and more important. MSPs need to get their arms around that. I don't think, if you're not doing security at MSP, then I would anticipate, sunsetting your business over the next, 3 to 5 years. It's an absolute must. So that's obviously important. It's only going to get more important. Automation, we've talked about, and being able to reduce the amount of labor in your cost model, because ultimately you're going to need more people in your organization to be able to do high level consulting. Like at some point, right? Like, especially in the, we talk about SMBs in the S in the small category, there's gonna be less and less infrastructure projects, right? Like no one's refreshing servers anymore. No one's even making software that goes on servers anymore. So those projects and that hardware that we once kind of, really was gravy on our P&L, that's either gone away or going away. So what you really need to get good at is essentially being really good at delivering security, getting your costs down through automation, and then being able to deliver a lot of value from a consulting perspective around like digital transformation and making sure your customers understand the opportunity they have in front of them to actually leverage technology as an advantage in their own business. So that's where I think the future is. Sometimes people don't like to hear that because, these projects and hardware, they've all been, a nice kind of gravy train for us as an industry in the past, me included as an MSP. But that ultimately is where it's going. A world where everything is a SaaS application. Again, more in the S space. I mean, mid-market will always kind of be a hybrid, and enterprise is a different beast altogether that we don't need to talk about because MSPs generally don't go there. But you need to get good, and you need to, I think, understand that high-level consulting and how you add value around digital transformation is really important.
Yeah. If you guys have not seen it, if you out there, Microsoft and Dell already go after customers. This is the way industries mature. They're going, at some point, you're the middleman. You're not creating the product, you're reselling it. So if you're a reseller, if you're a Best Buy, you're in trouble. I think I agree with Jim Lippy is that you've got 5 years. You may be doing well right now, but what's going to happen is, and we see this in the software industry, that inflection point goes both ways. And it's not just the up, it is down. And if you look at your revenue today and see that you're getting 40% margin on your PCs and you're just basking in that cash, that's going to go away as soon as Dell is already calling customers directly. Microsoft is already calling customers directly and selling their services. And so you need to be selling what? Services. Yeah, architecture. You want to have that guru who's going to walk in and say, here are the services that are going to augment your profitability. That's why I say focus on risks and revenue for your clients and how technology is going to affect that so they can pick which softwares are going to augment what they're doing. And then you use tool sets to manage that on the back end. So this one person, I was a two-man shop doing 36,000 MRR my first year out of corporate. We did zero technical support, even though I could. I said, no, I will consult only and help schools and small businesses choose which softwares and what strategies to use. That was 36,000 MRR we averaged for the first 2-3 years before I flipped into a software company. That is the future of MSPs, service and consultative services, and then leveraging automation on your back end to appear to be more. So yes, now everything's taken care of. You have these 5 software packages in place. They're going to help you with your time card management and personnel management. They're going to help you keep you more secure on site with this daycare. You now have a Google Chromebook program for your school. All these things that you don't have to service yourself, but are all taken care of in the background automatically. So the need for hiring new people in tier 1s has gone down. That tier 3 is servicing 15, 20 clients and advising them of which software portfolios to go with. You can't do that if you don't have a backyard that is full of automation and is working correctly. But you also need to be starting those conversations today so that the client is expecting you to help them with their revenue and risk reduction. When they see you as a partner, that's going to help their business model rather than just keeping the lights on.
Jim, did you want to add anything to that from Perimeter 81?
I will. Adam, you paint what is, I think, an alarming picture, but an accurate one. And I think the theme of, it's difficult to find talent and to staff up to the level of competence necessary to deliver business results that customers are looking for. This has been a constant theme. I think this is the recent past, and it will continue to be the future. And so finding those ways of streamlining the management and delivery of those services is really important. It's the theme of this call. Finding ways to reduce your reliance on large teams with high competence, so that you can deliver these business results with a more streamlined team. And it's just going to allow you to be more effective in competing for business, particularly in the small to mid-size client size that needs the expertise. Not so much necessarily anymore the buying power, right? When we have organizations like Dell that have gone direct to market, but these small to mid-sized organizations still need the competence. And to Jim's point, Jim Lippy's point, automation and security being, this is an area where Perimeter 81 plays, but I think it's an area that this audience needs and really yearns for guidance on, and this will become a really more important selling point in the services delivered by MSPs, I think, in the coming years.
I think
Kathleen,
go ahead.
Kathleen, if I could just kind of highlight exactly what we're talking about with an example from another industry. So at the end of 2006, my MSP, Thrive Networks, was acquired by Staples. I stayed on and ran it for another 6 years after the acquisition. So I actually got a pretty good perspective on the office products business, being an executive essentially at Staples. And it was a fantastic experience. Wouldn't trade it for anything. In 2007, I brought into all these meetings, and there was, at the time, printing was a big part of the Staples business. Like, they called ink and toner black gold because the margins were so high in ink and toner. But the executives knew that eventually printing was going to become a thing of the past. So at that point, they started creating initiatives to move the organization towards more digital approach. One of the reasons why they acquired us. They were too late. 2007 was the best year Staples ever had on the business-to-business side. And then it just came crashing down. Staples is a shadow of what they used to be today. People don't realize, but when I was at Staples, the business-to-business side was actually way bigger than the retail side. And people think Staples, I think stores, right? But delivering office products, and specifically the printing, the ink and toner and all that, was a massive business for Staples. They saw it coming. They knew it was coming. They tried to make adjustments, but it was too late.
Yep.
Don't let that happen to you. It's a cautionary tale as an MSP. If you see this coming, if you're listening to Adam, Jim, and myself around this, then take action today. Because what you do today is going to matter 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Yeah, and I was going to do the exact same thing there, Jim. I was going to say, hey, from another industry's perspective, if you don't believe that this is going to happen to IT is an engineering field. Pick any engineering field you want, and you can see the maturity path we're on. We're only like 23 years old, people. Like, if you go back to the 80s, okay, we're 30 years old. We're a very young field still. But we can take examples from the automotive field. Tier 1 gets automated. Period. If you're not working for that, you're falling behind. Because what happens is it starts moving up. And so if you look at a car commercial today, next time you look at a car commercial, what are they actually selling? Are they selling horsepower? Are they selling all the improvements they made to the engine? Are they selling all the details? No. They're showing a soccer mom getting out and having an easy life. They're showing a lifestyle you could have if you own that car. They're selling like what is the ideal? Where are you going to be? Because everything else has been automated. You walk into a manufacturing plant today, and all those tier 1, tier 2 engineers that were back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they're all automated by robots and processes now. The person that's out there is the designers, the architects, the salespeople. They're out there and they're selling a lifestyle. You as an MSP need to sell your clients on, you could be this kind of business if you work with us. And then keep automating the lower end activities. And I talk about how you have basically like 5 levels in an organization. If you're tier 1 techs, your tier 2 techs, your tier 3 techs, the process followers, the procedure creators, and then the out of box thinkers. Then you have your project managers, and then you have your C levels. And so as we go through the industry, these start disappearing. And if you're not moving those down, you're in trouble. If you're still relying on these two for revenue, they were great in the early 2000s and the 90s. You could print money. There's a reason why we all dropped out of college, right? Because the money was so good. That gravy train is ending. That's why you need automation for your tier 1s and tier 2s. Don't automate your leadership and your client interactions. Don't do that, because that's where, in the end of the day, you need to train your customers to say, I need to talk to Kathleen. She's the one who's going to help me get through this hard time. I need to talk to Jim. They're going to help me understand how to do this South build out. I've watched MSPs miss $4 million opportunities because they didn't ask the company what they were doing the next year. They were so focused on operations and making tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 in front of the customer that they were thinking, hey, what are you guys doing next year? I want to see if we can help you out and help you grow. Oh yeah, we're building a new school down south. Do you guys have any advice on that? Do we ever? We can handle your cabling for you. We can make sure we get your network diagrams built up for you. We can make sure that is the premier school to go through technology-wise. What's your budget? And so these face-to-face conversations while you're automating your tier 1, tier 2 is what's going to get you in 5 years to be that premier MSP in your area.
It's kind of interesting. I had a conversation just last week that's echoing what I'm hearing from all of you. And it was that B2B now wants to purchase like B2C. And we need to be thinking about those more intimate conversations, if you will, dragging people into those one-on-one conversations with us as if they are a B2C customer. And we need to be thinking about our brands and our go-to-market strategy in that way. So I think you all three very accurately covered it there. What I'd love to go into right now is to give each one of you roughly 5 minutes to tell me a little bit about your company and a little bit about what you're doing with MSPs. And during that time, if anybody in the audience has a question, now's your last chance to ask them. But Jim Lippy, let's start with you.
Yeah, I don't think I'll need 5 minutes. I appreciate the time, but end of the day, we help MSPs better protect their customers, increase their revenue, and reduce labor costs. Right? You heard that before when I was talking about criteria in which to evaluate tools. We do that through allowing MSPs to monitor the SaaS applications your customers are using every single day. So if you essentially look at, what's the center of the universe for your customers today? If you're being honest, it's going to be probably Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, one of those two productivity platforms. So we monitor 365, Google Workspace, Salesforce, Dropbox, Slack, and a host of other managed services tools, RMM, IT Glue, things like that. And we do it in 3 modules: manage, report, response, MRR, 3 letters that MSPs generally like. We allow the MSP to go in and manage the security settings or events and alerts for their customers. We allow them to unify the RMM experience with the SaaS data that we naturally get. So we're reading the RMM agent, we're unifying that with the SaaS data that we collect for your customer, and we're able to pinpoint very accurately what is going on with that specific user. And then we also have Fortify functionality in our managed module as well, which allows this 365 configuration management, allows the MSP to baseline every configuration, every tenant they have, understand what the Microsoft security score, understand what actions are going to increase that security score, in a click of a button, initiate those actions to increase that score. We have a reporting module that, coming back to what Adam was talking about, creating a personal touch with the customer and educating them, that demonstrates the value of everything you're doing for them, right? And I guarantee you, when you share this information with them, because it's interactive, they're going to want to take your VCIO visits. And then Respond is the last module, and that allows you, it's a customized rules engine, and it's all about automation. It's automated remediation that allows you to create if-then statements. So if ABC happens, then XYZ happens. And it allows you to catch all sorts of bad actors and internal bad actors, by the way, from stealing data from the organization or gaining unlawful access to one's SaaS applications. So end of the day, we feel at SaaS Search there is a shift from a on-prem, more device-centric approach to cybersecurity to a user-based approach to security. And we are here to help MSPs win on that transition.
And where would people find you online, you and SaaS Alerts?
SaaSalerts.com.
Terrific. All right, Adam, over to you. Oh, we can't hear you, Adam.
Yeah, you're
5 minutes. I don't want to hear my keyboard clicking. Taking notes. I just so you guys know, 5 minutes. I was one of the Pitch It finalists, Humanize IT, for last year for ConnectWise IT Nation. We did not win. We were cheated. Sean Lardo, thank you for that. Anyways, but we did win the 2022 most innovative solution of everybody at ConnectWise. So the reason for that is because we answer the question, what do I talk about with my customer? You're a great MSP. What do you talk about? So you can call it a QBR, a TBR, an SBR, whatever you want. The result is a client conversation. We make your perceived value go through the roof, not because we make you better. We just change your conversation using personas that you can build beforehand. So when you're ready to talk to a customer, you just load up the QBR persona. You load up the VCIO persona, and it immediately pulls out of things like ConnectWise or PSA, all the things you're doing that matter to the customer, so that you spend 15 minutes loading that up before a meeting, reviewing it, walk into that session, and now you talk to them about risks and revenue and context of what they can see on the board. And that's how easy our conversations are. We take your 6 hours of prep time and take it down to 15 minutes because you're already doing great things. And if you use things like Perimeter 81 or you use SaaS Alerts on the back end, it makes these conversations even more powerful because they've already distilled out all the noise for you and can give you the metrics that you need. We do iframes so we can absorb things from these reports. We can make things look nice. Don't overwhelm your client. So at Humanize IT, we turn anybody into a unicorn, and we refer to unicorns as engineers who can talk tech, sales, and business. They're very rare to find. You already have them because you're an MSP who already has those people. You just need a single pane of glass that shows your clients what it is you're doing in a meaningful way so you can stay focused on the conversations that matter. And those conversations are around risks and revenue of their business, not their technology, their business. And then we put it in context for you.
And where can people find you and Humanize IT?
Oh, we're all over social media. We go live actually here in 10 minutes for our community update. You can check out our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's Humanize IT. And we're pretty popular. We release every Monday. And then we have humanizeit.biz is our main website.
Fantastic. All right, Mr. Finnerty, are you ready to bring us home?
I'm ready. I'm ready for it. So Perimeter 81, we are a player in what Gartner is referred to as SASE or SSE. I think of it as secure network as a service. Essentially, we are delivering network security that's designed for the modern workplace. What do I mean by that? Largely, we've got resources that have been moving to the cloud and are delivered now via SaaS on the web. And probably more importantly, since the pandemic especially, we have a workforce that's become more remote. And so network security solutions that were typically site-centric, premise-based, are protecting offices that are more and more largely empty. A better approach in our estimation would be having your own private network that is also cloud native. And this is delivered and connecting users via a single agent that's on their endpoint, delivering network protections from web filtering to malware protection, firewall as a service, like limiting access to specific network environments that may be in the cloud or on premise, device posturing. A lot of what we do is replacing VPN that can be clunky and performing poorly and limited in certain security aspects with something that would integrate with your identity service, right? So you can think of Perimeter 81 as a network security solution for this new modern workplace. And we are available at perimeter81.com. We also are a recent news is organization was founded in 2018 through 3 rounds of fundraising. We've been growing to over 3,000 end customers. Just last month, we've entered into an agreement to be acquired by Checkpoint, and so that is a new deal that is closed, should be closing in the next week or two, and I'm excited to see what that allows us to do in delivering more security capabilities along the security stack through that new ownership, through that new partnership. But we will continue to be Perimeter 81 and serving our MSP partners as such. Just excited to be able to deliver an even more mature product in the coming months.
Well, what a fantastic announcement, and what a way to end today. I want to say thank you to Channel Program for this opportunity to let us all come and speak to you today. And I want to thank Adam for having a name that wasn't Jim. But I'd also like to thank Jim and Jim for your time today, as well as Adam. And for all of you, if you have any questions or you want to follow up with one of our fantastic individuals that have been speaking here today, find them on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn at Kathleen A. Martin. And we hope you all have a wonderful day. Again, thank you very much.